What's the dark secret of that one quiet kid at your school? Since the start of junior year, everyone thought Kuba just had really rich parents, because he was always rocking expensive clothes. But after a while, it turned out he didn't even have parents. So where was all that money coming from? Kuba was the quiet kid type. He never really stood out, didn't talk much, but everybody knew him for the designer clothes and the brand new iPhone. If anyone ever dared to ask where he got all that stuff, someone else would quickly answer, "Come on, dude, his parents are loaded, can't you tell?" And that was it. Nobody cared enough to question it. Just another rich kid flaunting what his folks bought him. But then something weird happened. After our Polish class, my classmate Maciek stayed behind to talk with the teacher. Out of nowhere, he overheard her asking Kuba, "So, how's it going at the group home? Did they manage to find you a foster family yet?" Maciek froze. Wait, what? Kuba was supposed to have rich parents, and now it turns out he doesn't have any? That same day, Maciek told the whole class that Kuba had been lying to us all along. The guys immediately decided that tomorrow, 10 of them would corner him and demand the truth, but they didn't get the chance. It was the last class of the day, and Kuba slipped out faster than usual. The next day, surprise, Kuba didn't show up at school at all, almost like he knew we'd figured it out. After school, I was heading out, and my mom was waiting for me in the car by the gate. I was just about to get in when I caught something strange out of the corner of my eye. Down a side alley in the shadows, there was a kid, same height as Kuba, wearing the exact same kind of clothes, taking money from some older guy. What the hell was that about? I slammed the car door shut and yelled to my mom that I'd be right back. I started following him. I must have gone 500 yards or so before I finally caught up. I grabbed his hood and shouted, "Kuba, wait! What are you doing?" And when he turned around, I was completely speechless. When the guy finally turned around, his face was nothing like Kuba's. No tight jaw, no little mole under the eye, different nose altogether. For a second, my brain just froze. Everything matched. Same hoodie, same sneakers, same height. But it wasn't him. "What the hell are you talking about, man?" the kid muttered, yanking his hood out of my hand. "Who's Kuba? Get lost." He looked a little older than us. Maybe from another school. Maybe not even from around here. He smelled like expensive cologne mixed with cigarette smoke. Through the fold of his hoodie, I caught a glimpse of some brand logo I'd only ever seen on Instagram. He just turned away like nothing had happened and started walking off. Quickly. Instinct told me to follow a few more steps, but that cold realization was already spreading through my head. I'd got the wrong guy. My big gotcha moment had just crumbled. "Hey," I called out, mostly to myself, "I saw you taking that cash from that guy." He stopped for just a second, glanced back over his shoulder. There was a smile on his face, but not a friendly one. So what? I didn't have an answer. I wasn't ready for anything other than, it's Kuba, caught red-handed, now comes the big confrontation. Instead, I was left with some stranger in Kuba's hoodie and those 3 words, "So what?" which landed like, "You don't know a thing, and you can't do anything." He turned back and disappeared between the apartment blocks. The old man from the alley was already gone, too, leaving behind nothing but the soft clang of a half-closed metal gate. I went back to the car. Mom glanced at my red nose from running, then at my dirty hands. "What were you doing?" she asked, calmly. "Nothing. I thought I saw someone I knew," I muttered, buckling my seatbelt. "Let's go." She didn't say a word the whole ride. I just stared out the window, replaying my own private movie, where everything I thought I knew suddenly didn't make sense anymore. It wasn't Kuba, but the clothes were Kuba's. And the money? The old guy? The whole puzzle was still scattered on the floor. That night after dinner, I opened up our class group chat. Messages were piling up. "Anyone know where Kuba is? Do we talk to him normal tomorrow or do we go hard? Maciek, what exactly did you hear? He's not answering again." Someone dropped a meme of a banana with a gold chain. Someone else just wrote LOL. Another kid, "This isn't funny anymore, seriously." Before I fell asleep, I lay there staring at the ceiling, planning some movie-style conversation. I'd go up to Kuba calmly without the crew, tell him what I saw, ask straight up. In my head, it sounded reasonable, even smart. In reality, yeah, right. The next day, Kuba came back. I saw him in the hallway before math class, and for a split second, I thought I was looking at his younger brother, if he had one. He was wearing an old gray sweatsuit. The hoodie had a crooked patch on it. The pants sagged at the knees like balloons. No brands, no shine. And under his left eye, a nasty yellow bruise the size of a plum, outlined purple. But what hit me even harder was what he didn't have. No headphones, no laptop bag, no phone in his hand, no iPhone. He froze at the edge of the hallway, like he was calculating the nearest escape route. Our classes spilled out into the corridor. The buzz of whispers started rising like a wave. I saw Maciek straighten up, like somebody pressed his confrontation button. "Kuba!" he called out too loudly, so everyone could hear. "Got a minute?" Kuba didn't answer. He just walked past us like through a tunnel, eyes glued to the floor. I caught fragments around me. What happened to him? Maybe he got in a fight. Where's his iPhone? Somebody hit him. "Dude, this looks serious." "Hey, man," I said quietly, stepping closer than the rest. "You okay?" He stopped, but still wouldn't look at me. Something between silence and a swallowed word. After a second, he shook his head and hurried straight to the bathroom, like it was the only place left to breathe. We exchanged glances. Maciek was about to fire off another, "Hey, but," when the bathroom door slammed shut. "So what now?" hissed Bartek, one of the tough 10. "We still gonna talk to him?" "Leave him alone," Anka cut in, which was rare for her. "You see how he looks? That's exactly why we need to talk," someone muttered. "Where did all those clothes come from? What was that lie?" Not now, I thought. Not in the middle of the hallway when he's at his most fragile. During math, Kuba came back late and sat in the last row. Didn't write a word. The teacher started to scold him, but when she saw his eye, her face softened. "Kuba, are you okay?" she asked gently, like it was just the two of them. "Stay after class for a moment, please." He nodded like a robot, with one command. At the break, our homeroom teacher showed up smelling faintly of apple fabric softener, pen stuck behind her ear. She stopped Kuba with a raised hand. We pretended not to listen, but of course every nerve turned into an antenna. "Kuba, I'd like you to go to the counselor's office right now. now, she said softly. We can see you're having a hard time. Class can wait. This is more important. Nothing happened, Kuba recited quietly, like the words weren't even his. I tripped. Okay, she nodded without irony. Come on, let's talk in peace. For a fraction of a second, his eyes met ours, met mine. In that look was something between a plea and an apology. I wanted to blurt out, listen, yesterday, I thought I saw you, but it wasn't you. But no words came that didn't sound like an accusation. They came back 2 periods later. Our teacher's eyes were tired, and Kuba looked unplugged, like someone had pulled the cord out of him. The class sank into that strange silence. Not real quiet, but the sound of 100 unsaid sentences buzzing in the air. At the next break, I sat beside him on the windowsill, handed him my water bottle without a word. He took a sip, gave it back. Kuba, I started, but he lifted his hand, asking me not to interrupt. I don't have a phone, he said flatly. If you tried to text me, I don't have one. That's not it, I said quickly. I know it wasn't you yesterday in that alley. For the first time, he looked at me like I was a person, not a wall. Something shifted by a millimeter. How? Do you know? Because I followed him. Grabbed his hood. It wasn't you. A pause. 1 millimeter of trust. Okay, he said quietly. Thanks. McKeek slid over, full of that, let's solve this energy. Dude, we're not against you, he started. But the whole parents thing, it came out like a lie. And the clothes, man, where'd they come from? Kuba stared out the window. I didn't lie, he whispered. I don't have parents. Well then who? Masiek began. But the counselor and homeroom teacher walked up, calm but firm, the way adults are when they've already decided. Something! Kuba, the counselor said, smoothing a page on her notepad. We want you to meet with the principal today. We'll make sure you're safe, okay? Nobody said police. Not yet. But the word was hanging there like ozone before a storm. The teacher asked me to come to the staff room. Did you see anything yesterday after school? She asked, straight to the point. You don't have to say if you don't want to, but if you think Kuba's in danger, now's the time. I swallowed. I saw a kid in his clothes, taking money from some older guy. I followed him. It wasn't Kuba. Could you recognize the man? No, never seen him before. He was against the light, couldn't see his face, just his hand, the wallet. He was handing out cash like it was a tip. The teacher and counselor exchanged one look, shorter than a blink, but it said more than words. Thank you for telling us, the counselor said. Really, you can go back to class now. When I walked in, it felt like everyone's eyes were on me, though no one actually looked up. Makiak gave me the well face, but I shook my head. I wasn't sure what I was allowed to say. During civics, the door opened without a knock. The principal walked in. He usually carried himself too stiff, like he'd swallowed a stick, but this time he just looked serious. He pointed at Kuba, not accusingly, more like calling attendance. Kuba, come with me, he said, just for a moment. That moment lasted till the end of the day. The rest of our classes blurred out like spilled ink. Less laughter, less whispering. For once, no one spammed the group chat. Even Bartek stayed quiet. The silence pressed so hard, the clock ticked louder. After school, I saw through the window Kuba walking out of the principal's office with our teacher and the counselor. Slow steps, heavy like bricks. The secretary was holding the door open after putting down the phone. Someone stood just outside, out of view. Then, a flash of a yellow vest, a navy jacket, 2 silhouettes. No words were needed. Even Bartek didn't joke this time. I went downstairs, pretending to grab a snack from the kiosk. Just wanted to confirm. In the lobby stood 2 cops, one young and pale, looking like the uniform was too big for him. The other older, mustache, giving him that uncle next door vibe. They were talking quietly with the principal. Our teacher stood beside Kuba. My classmate looked like a shadow, hands stuffed in sleeves, head down, bruise under his eye like a stamp. Kuba, the younger officer said gently. We're going to the station now to talk. Just a conversation, okay? You're safe. Kuba never lifted his eyes from the floor. Someone pushed the door open. Cold air slipped in, like a reminder that outside, people were just buying bread and walking their dogs. I don't know if it was the worst thing I saw in high school, or just the thing I'll remember most. Him walking out between 2 policemen while everyone pretended not to see. Like even looking at him might make it worse. I went back upstairs. McKeck was waiting. They called the cops? He whispered. I nodded. You think this is about us? He asked after a moment, as if that even made sense. No, I said honestly. I think it's about him. At home, I sat over a blank sheet of paper pretending to do homework. My head was piecing together 1,000 scattered fragments. The expensive clothes, no parents, the overheard conversation, yesterday's Kuba double, the old man with cash, today's bruise, the missing iPhone, the silence in the counselor's office, the police. Something was starting to take shape, but it was the kind of picture nobody wants to see. Later that night, Makiek texted me. Makiek, dude, the more I think about it, it's not just about him buying fancy stuff. It's bigger. Did you see how scared he was? Me, yeah, I saw. Maciek, do you get the feeling he's protecting someone? I stared at that line for a long time, and for the first time, it hit me. Maybe the answer to where did he get the money wasn't about Kuba at all. Maybe it was about someone else. Someone who had more than enough. Someone who used money like a leash. The next day at school, the vibe wasn't just quiet. It was that kind of silence so tense that the sound of a pen tapping on a desk made everyone jump. From the moment we walked in, there was only one topic. Kuba and the police. Everyone knew something. Everyone had heard something. Bartek swore they took him in for dealing drugs. Claudia was sure it was about theft. Somebody else said they found fake IDs on him. The rumors multiplied faster than rabbits. Teachers tried to run class like normal, but it was pointless. The second someone said problem number 3, somebody in the back whispered, arrest under paragraph 3. Cue laughter, shushing, then silence again. I wasn't laughing at all. I saw the look on Kuba's face when they took him. He didn't look like a dealer. He didn't look like a thief. He looked like someone who had stopped believing a long time ago that he even had a choice. Our homeroom teacher came in during second period, pretending it was just covering. She walked in slowly, sat on the desk instead of at the front. She looked at us for a long time. Listen, she finally said, you all know the police talked to Kuba yesterday. I can't give you details, but I can tell you one thing. You can't judge someone if you don't know what they're going through, murmurs. Bartek opened his mouth, but she raised her hand. Let me put it this way. Kuba didn't do anything wrong. He ended up in a situation no kid should ever be in. And our job now is not to add to the weight he's already carrying. Got it? We only half got it. To half the class, it sounded like, yeah, right, they're covering for him because he's special. To the other half, it sounded like, this is way more serious than we think. I was in the second half. That afternoon, I saw a police car parked outside school. No sirens, no scene. Just idling. 2 cops inside. Looked normal, but I had the feeling they were waiting for Kuba. They didn't wait long. Around 3, our teacher walked out with him. This time, nobody was holding his arms. They walked side by side like a mom and her kid. The officer just opened the door, and Kuba got in without a word. What are they even doing with him? Machek muttered next to me by the gate. It almost looks like they're protecting him. I had no answer. That night, Claudia texted me. Claudia, hey, I heard the cops are trying to figure out where he got all those clothes. That's the main thing. Me. What if he wasn't the one buying them? Claudia. Then who? Kids in foster care get like 200 Zwetert a month, and he was rocking shoes worth $2,000. Me. I saw someone else wearing his clothes. It wasn't Kuba. Claudia. That's even worse. Someone was giving them to him, and that's when it hit me. The simplest question. The one that flipped everything upside down. Who had something to gain from making sure a kid from a group home walked around in designer clothes with a brand new iPhone? By the next day, I knew the answer to that question was going to be way darker than all the rumors put together. The first real signs that this was serious showed up on Monday. Kuba didn't come back to school. Officially, our homeroom teacher said he was having one-on-one sessions with the counselor, but everybody knew that was a cover. By Friday, someone had already seen a police car dropping him back at the group home. The rumors went wild that he was sitting at the station, that he had a court case, that he was a witness in some mafia scheme. In every version, he was either the villain or a secret informant. It bothered me more than I wanted to admit. On one hand, I'd seen his eye, those worn-out clothes, that dimmed-out stare, and I couldn't believe it was all an act. On the other, I couldn't shake the image of that guy in Kuba's hoodie, taking cash from some older man. During break, the school counselor came into our classroom and sat at the teacher's desk like it was her room. Kids, she started gently. I know you're talking about Kuba. I want you to know the police are looking into some things and Kuba is cooperating. That doesn't mean he did anything wrong. Sometimes a young person ends up part of a situation they never should have been in. But what did he do? Bartek blurted out. Where'd all that stuff come from? The counselor sighed. I can't tell you details yet, but I will say this. Some gifts can be a trap. That line hooked into me like a barb. Gifts can be a trap. A few days later, whispers started spreading around town. First among adults. At dinner, my mom said, "Did you hear about that wealthy widow up on the hill? Apparently the police are asking who she's been meeting with." Dad snorted. "The one who owns the car showroom? Yeah, she's always been odd." I froze. Widow, rich, police asking questions. And instantly I pictured Kuba in those strangely new clothes. On the class chat, Makek dropped a message. Makek, got intel. A buddy of my dad's on the force. Said Kuba was getting everything from some 40-something woman. Loaded, like millionaire level. When Makek first told me, I couldn't believe it. I practically shouted, "What?" Claudia immediately tried to turn it into a joke, calling her his sugar mommy, but Makek shut it down. He said the police believed she'd been sponsoring him completely. The phone, the shoes, the clothes, even his vacations. I could only ask why, and Makek admitted that was exactly what they were still trying to figure out. The jokes died out fast. Even Claudia, who'd started it, sent a sad emoji a minute later. Kuba showed up at school near the end of the week. He slipped into history class late, wearing an old sweater and pants 2 centimeters too short. He looked like a different person. The silence got so thick even the teacher didn't say a word, just waved him to sit. After class, I walked up to him. "Kuba, look, you don't have to say anything, but if something's going on..." He looked at me for a long moment, like he was weighing whether I could handle it. Then he whispered, "I never wanted that stuff." "She did." "She?" I echoed. Right then, a plainclothes officer who'd been talking to the principal stepped over and called him aside. That night, I sat at my desk staring at a blank page. The thought wouldn't let me go. It wasn't Kuba choosing the luxury. Someone chose him. And suddenly, all the puzzle pieces started to fit. His silence, his reluctance to talk, the designer clothes he couldn't explain, the fear in his eyes whenever someone asked him straight. None of it looked like a rich kid showing off. It looked like someone trapped in a gilded cage. That evening, Makek reached out to me. He told me that, according to what he'd heard, the woman had been supporting Kuba on the condition that he kept meeting with her. And he didn't even have to spell out what kind of meetings he meant. It was sick. When Kuba tried to cut it off, she apparently lost her temper. I asked him how he could possibly know that, and Makek explained it was already circulating among the police. His dad's friend had heard the details. She had sent some guys after Kuba. That, he said, was why the bruise appeared on his face, and why his iPhone had suddenly vanished. I closed my eyes, and the memory hit me again. That look Kuba gave me in the hallway, the one time he actually met my eyes. It was as if he wanted to say, "Help me, but I can't tell you anything." With every broken sentence, every half-finished thought from Kuba, the picture kept coming together in my mind. A picture I didn't want to see. He had never wanted to be the rich kid. It was never about flexing, never about showing off. His luxury clothes weren't trophies, they were shackles. Golden, branded, shiny, but shackles all the same. A week after the police first came to school, Kuba surprised me. He came up to me in the locker room while everyone else was still searching for their shoes. "Can we talk? Somewhere no one can see?" he asked quietly. We slipped out to the back of the school, near the old field. It was cold, snow still on the ground, though the sunlight gave the illusion of spring. Kuba stood hunched, hands buried in his pockets. I couldn't keep it going anymore, he whispered. I wanted to end it. "End what?" I asked, though I already knew. He looked at me, his good eye glistening with tears. "With her. That woman, she bought everything, but nothing came for free. free. He stopped, as if the words stuck in his throat. I told her I didn't want that life anymore, that I'd rather wear cheap sweatpants than be her toy. Listening. To him, I wanted to scream. Not at him, but at the world, at her, at the fact that something like this could happen to a kid I sat next to in class every day. So what did she do? I asked, my voice trembling. Kuba swallowed hard. She sent people after me. 2 guys. At night, when I was walking back to the group home. Dark Street. They just said, "Greetings from the lady." Before I even turned around, I got punched. They took my phone, my jacket, my shoes, everything she'd ever given me, and then it all clicked. That's why he came back to school in an old sweater. That's why the iPhone was gone. That's why he looked like someone had drained every bit of life from him. The next day, the class already had its own versions. Some claimed Kuba was in debt and got taken down. Others said he'd been dealing and rivals got back at him. But I knew better. At recess, I sat beside him and whispered, "Did you tell the police?" He nodded. But who's going to believe me? She's got money, connections, lawyers. And me? I'm just some kid from a group home with a liar's reputation. He was right. I'd seen the doubt in the officer's eyes when they escorted him. Gentle on the surface, but shadowed with suspicion. A few days later, a black SUV showed up by the schoolyard. It idled through the whole break, windows tinted, engine running. Someone whispered it was her car. I saw Kuba glance at it, fear written across his face. He looked like he wanted to disappear. That evening I learned the SUV had also been spotted circling the group home. The director reportedly called it in to the police. On Friday, Kuba didn't show up at school. That night, he called me from the group home's landline. His voice was hoarse, like he'd been crying for hours. "I've got nothing left," he said. "They took everything she ever gave me. The cops say it's good, it's evidence, but I feel stripped bare, like I've got nothing." I wanted to tell him he still had me, that he had our class, that he wasn't alone, but no words felt strong enough. The police had opened an official investigation. It became clear the woman was obsessed. She'd kept Kuba like he was her possession, and when he tried to walk away, she decided to break him by force. Instead of luxury, all he had left were bruises and worn-out clothes. Instead of a new family, he was left with fear. The fear that someone might be waiting for him around the next corner. When the investigation picked up, it all started to feel like a movie. The police had surveillance footage, neighbor testimonies, even receipts from boutiques. It became clear that this woman really had treated Kuba like her property. She bought him everything, from socks to phones, just to keep him close. Someone she could control, someone she could own. When Kuba tried to break it off, the mask of the caring guardian slipped, and what showed through was a cold, wealthy woman with the money and power to send guys after him. The police pressed her hard, but it wasn't easy. She had lawyers, connections, and a way of twisting everything back around. Kuba stayed quiet. He was a witness, but also a victim, and that was the hardest thing for him to face. During breaks, when we talked, he'd tell me, "I feel like I let myself be bought, like everything I wore was never really mine." That's when I understood. The real punishment wasn't losing the clothes or the phone. The real punishment was not knowing who he was without them. School turned strange. Kids who, a year earlier, had laughed at the rich boy suddenly treated him like some character out of a dark legend. Someone would whisper, "That's the kid with the millionaire." Another would add, "But he survived, right?" Teachers handled him like glass. Tougher assignments, they let him slide. Late to class, they pretended not to see. Kuba hated it. He hated pity. In class, he sat like a shadow. He didn't talk, didn't laugh, but he was there. He'd come back. A month later, it came out that the woman had been charged. Officially, harassment, abuse of guardianship, extortion. Not an affair with a minor. Her lawyers twisted it too well to prove that. For Kuba, it didn't matter. She was gone from his life. The SUV stopped showing up outside school. The thugs stopped looking for him. But everything he'd had vanished with her, too. He stayed at the group home. Back in his room with the bare bulb and the bed that creaked with every move. I remember one conversation a few weeks later. We were sitting behind the school, the same place where he'd first opened up to me. It was warm now, spring fully here. "You know what's the worst part?" he asked suddenly. "What?" "When I look at myself in the mirror, I don't know if it's still me. In those clothes she gave me, I looked like someone else, but at least someone. Now I feel like I've disappeared. But you're free," I told him. "You don't have to pretend anymore." He gave a crooked smile. Free and broke. Wonder which is worse. I didn't know what to say.